Hey, Eagle fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Welcome to Philadelphia Eagles Now. We have a mailbag video coming up early next week because the Eagles played on Thursday night, so there's no reaction video for Monday. And so we want to take your questions now. I'm going to take a lot more than I normally do. I normally take 5 or 6, maybe 9 or 10 in next week's early mailbag video. So go down below right now. Here's your chance. Use the hashtag Eagles down below in the comments section. Ask any question you possibly could want regarding our Philadelphia Eagles, of course. And I will most likely, if it's good and you're a subscriber, pull it. So go down below, ask your question right now. All right, so in today's video, I want to jump into some trade deadline candidates that Philadelphia could look to trade as the Eagles get closer and closer to the 2021 NFL trade deadline. Now, as we talked about on the channel a couple of days ago, the Eagles already traded Zach Ertz, so maybe they're done because Zach Ertz was going to be number 1 on this list. He, of course, traded to the Cardinals, so he's no longer on the list, but there are still some players I think you could field some phone calls for in terms of getting rid of if the Eagles are, 1, trying to free up cap space, 2, get draft picks, or 3, by the time the trade deadline gets here, they continue to lose, meaning that players that have big-time contracts or salaries aren't needed because the Eagles aren't trying to win anymore. They're trying to lose games and therefore get a high draft pick. So even though this list is in no particular order, I'm going to give you guys my breakdown of like the likelihood meter from scale 1 to 5, 1 being unlikely, 5 being very, very likely. And as you'll see, I don't think any of these players will for sure be traded, but these are definitely the names that the Eagles wanted to trim the fat a little bit, could be moved at the trade deadline. Let's start with number 1 here. Again, in no particular order, it's Jalen Reagor, the wide receiver. Now, I don't want to trade Jalen Reagor. I think Jalen Reagor can still be a good wide receiver, but 2 years in now, we're 2 years into the experience of a first-round draft pick, Reagor just doesn't look like he's it. Like Devontae Smith very clearly looks like a number 1 wide receiver, a first-round draft pick wide receiver, whatever you want to call it. Reagor does not. And so if the Eagles are already done with Reagor, they might want to look to trade him at the trade deadline to a team that still believes in him, because the longer you wait, as you saw with J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, as he continues to show he's not able to play, no team wants to actually trade for him. Now, again, I don't think Philadelphia will do this. It's too early in his career. My likelihood meter is a 3 out of 5, but if a team did want to call and inquire about Reagor and wanted to offer something, decent, and the Eagles are losing as well, pair that together, I would look to go ahead and move on from Jalen Reagor, and I'd draft somebody early on next season with one of your many first-round draft picks or second-round draft picks in order to replace his ability, because, again, the eye test is just not working. Like, he's just not as explosive. I think he's in his head a little bit. It feels very Nelson Aguilar-like, and even though Aguilar, toward the latter part of his career, did play a little bit better, he was not worth the high draft pick they spent on him, and Reagor was drafted higher, first-round draft pick, and so I just think that right now, Reagor is not playing at the level that I would like, and so I think if the Eagles continue to lose football games, I would at least field calls from him or about him, even though I do think in the end the Eagles aren't going to trade Jalen Reagor because they want him to be successful in this offense, whether it's this year or next year. Now, pin comment down below. We'll get into the next couple of players here in just 1 second. First, though, answer this question. Which Eagle would you be willing to trade away right now? Ertz is already gone. We talked about that. Which Eagle, if there was one internally that you'd be willing to trade away, let me know who that is down below right now. Now, next on our list is, to me, a very unlikely trade candidate, but we must mention it because he was thrown around in some trade rumors, and I think we can kind of put the rumors to bed here. So he makes the list, but in reality, the Eagles are not going to trade Dallas Goedert. Now, had this been filmed, 3 days ago, Goedert would for sure have been on this list as very, very likely because there was reports from Jay Glazer that teams were calling and inquiring about Dallas Goedert. My likelihood meter of a trade for him is still very low. It's a 2 out of 5. The only way they would move on from him is if they can't get a contract extension, right? So right now, I think what's going to happen in Philadelphia, and they're going to go ahead and re-sign him to a massive new contract. Now, if you're watching this video and it's already happened, then just, predict that the future me predicted it or whatever it is. But I think they're going to try to re-sign him to a new deal. If that is not going to happen, if he doesn't want to be an Eagle, then you could see them go ahead and move on from him. But as we mentioned, Zach Ertz was traded, and so I think it's very, very safe to say that Dallas Goedert is not going to go ahead and be moved because, as you see on your screen, Zach Ertz was traded for this to the Cardinals just a couple of days ago. And so I think that Goedert, again, very unlikely, but he has to be included on the list because of the contract situation and the fact that the Eagles did receive phone calls from him a couple of days ago. And so if someone wants to make a crazy good offer, the Eagles might still be listening because they are struggling in terms of the win column. Now, before we get into my next prediction, I want to give a shout out to our friends, next trade candidate, I should say. Shout out to our friends at BetUS. Go to chatsports.com/EaglesBet. Use the promo code Eagles125. Get a 125% deposit bonus whenever you first sign up to bet on the NFL games. And I have my picks of the week here. I give them to you every single week. I am 14-9-2 on my picks this year, by the way. So just, pat myself on the back a little bit. I mean, the Packers -4.5 at the Bears. I think that they blow out Justin Fields and Matt Nagy. The Chargers +3 at the Ravens. Baltimore's defense is not that good, and they should have lost a couple of these football games, they've come back and heroically won. The Cardinals, with Zach Ertz now, when I'm filming this video, we're plus 2.5 at the Browns, so I'll take the Cardinals and the points in that one. I feel very good about the Arizona Cardinals in that one. I love Arizona, especially with Ertz now. Cowboys -4, the Patriots. I don't know how the Patriot offense scores with the Dak Prescott and the Cowboy offense. I hate to go ahead and bet for the Cowboys, but I want to win some money. And then the Jaguars, they're due a win. The Dolphins are not very good. Plus 3.5, they will at least cover. The Jags break the wins or the losing streak. They're 20 in a row losses or whatever it is. I think they're going to win and beat the Dolphins. All right, next internal trade candidate is one that's a little more likely, I think, than Reagor or Goedert, although still not that likely. Again, there aren't a lot of players I think Philadelphia is going to want to trade. We make the video because there's still a chance. Andre Dillard makes the list here, mainly because they already have Jordan Mailata. Now, if Lane Johnson comes back anytime soon, which we have no idea when or if he does, this becomes a lot more likely because they'll just put him back on the bench, that is, Andre Dillard. But as it currently stands, my likelihood meter is at a 3 out of 5 because they can't really trade him right now because he's playing left tackle. Like, Mailata can only go back to left tackle if you have Lane Johnson at right tackle. And so if Lane Johnson comes back before the trade deadline, I can see them moving on from Andre Dillard, who has played well the past couple of weeks. They just like Mailata more because they gave him the contract extension, and he, of course, won the job as well. But this all, again, depends on if they need Dillard out there, because if Johnson's not coming back this year, then you definitely have to keep Andre Dillard at left tackle because there's no one really else to play that position because Mailata is currently holding down the right side. You guys think the Eagles will make any more moves at the deadline? Ertz already gone. Will they make any more moves? If they will, type Y down below for yes. If they will not, go down below and type N down below for no. All right, the final two on my list, and we'll get into number 4 here in a second, is Fletcher Cox. I think these two are very unlikely. I'll tell you 5 in just a second here as well. But we have to include them on the list because these are two players which, if the Eagles continue to lose, they could actually gain something by trading them away now because the Eagles might be looking at a very total reset after this season. So we include a guy like Fletcher Cox on this list. With the likelihood meter not being that great, 2 out of 5, I don't think it's going to happen. But he's the highest paid player on this defense and really high paid player on the entire team. He's not played particularly well this year. He's aging, and the Eagles would have a ton of free cap space next offseason if they were to go ahead and move on from Fletcher Cox. Again, I don't think that they will. I don't think that they should. I think Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave are two of the best players on this defense, but if the Eagles keep losing, then I think this has to become a possibility for Philadelphia because of the fact that he makes so much money and has not produced at the level we would expect him to over this course of the season. He's not going to get better as the years go by. He's continued to kind of trend down. I think his prime was in his past, and so if a team wanted to make a crazy good offer, although very unlikely because, again, the contract is hard to move, I definitely have to go ahead and include Fletcher Cox on this list. Final player on the list here, again, very unlikely, but as I'll explain in a second, could actually happen. It's Miles Sanders. Now, you say, Thomas, why Miles Sanders? Do you watch the Eagles this year? They don't use Miles Sanders, which is ridiculous. It makes me want to rip all of my hair out. It's mind-numbing, but they don't use him. And so even though my likelihood is a 1 out of 5, because I would not trade Miles Sanders, you can see where I'm going with this because if the Eagles don't use him, they don't want to pay him either because his contract is coming up, so why not just ship him off? Like, if you're not going to use Miles Sanders, get rid of him. Like, seriously, use him, which is what you should do. Don't trade him. Seriously, please use him. But if you're not going to, then at least get something for him in return and let him go, live his life and have a good career, right? I'm excited that Ertz gets to go play with the Cardinals because he has a chance to win some football games now. The same can be said for Miles Sanders because they don't use him, right? I mean, you got to give Miles Sanders more touches here. I would never trade Miles Sanders. I would just give him touches because he's really, really good and deserves touches. But if they're not going to do it, then I guess you got to trade him. And so even though he makes the list, he's at the bottom. Likelihood very unlikely, but you get my point why. Okay, we'll wrap up by giving you a quick recap here. Reagor makes the list, even though I think that is unlikely. Same with Dallas Goedert. The two that to me would make the most sense would be Fletcher Cox or Andre Dillard, even though, again, the odds of Philadelphia making a move right now at the deadline to get rid of players to me is still unlikely. We do have to mention Miles Sanders, only because Miles Sanders has never played and never used, and so why keep him on the football team if that is what Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni want to go ahead and do. We'll see what happens. Again, if something happens, we'll cover it here. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel because when trades happen, as you saw a couple of days ago with our Zach Ertz video, we got that out right away. And so if you like the channel, help us out by going down below and subscribing. Again, I'm Thomas Mott here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. It's the weekend. Have a great rest of your weekend. I got some golf to play. I will sign off for the rest of your day.